Hello my friends and welcome to my channel. My name is Carla and I am the Stitchy Witch in Scotland. Halloween means a lot more to me because of the fact that I was born on the 31st, so I tend to celebrate it probably a bit more than others do. But I do like to think of myself more as a good witch than a bad witch. So today I have got about 7 whips to show you, which is not too bad. So I've done quite a bit of stitching this month. I'd say some days have been a bit better than others, and there have also been the odd days where I just seem to be a bit flitty with it and doing a little bit of stitching around all sorts of other things that I've had going on. But I don't feel like it's been too bad a month at all with the stitching. And I did actually really enjoy the fact that I got quite a bit done on my Moon Witch piece, which I'd started at the beginning of October, which I haven't really worked on in between doing the Stitch with Me's, but that's fine. It was just something that I really wanted to do to sort of stitch along with other people. And I think that one's probably going to go. Sorry, if you don't know which one that is, I'm talking about Moon Witch by Artisy, which was a freebie, not this year, but I think maybe a year ago or maybe a bit longer. And I really enjoyed it, but I didn't really get too far, but that's okay. And we also have other things that I will be talking about as well, which is just a little bit of stuff like crochet and a couple of books that I'm currently reading. And I think that's it. And that's all I'm going to have for this particular floss tube. So let's get started. Okay, I think I'll take my hat off now though, because I've already done my little witchy introduction. And they do tend to get a little bit scratchy. Okay, so I'm going to start with a design which I started, I think it was 2024 I started this one, and it's called Perfect Wisdom, and it's an owl, and it is the Heaven and Earth design chart. And this month I think I brought it out for about 3 sessions. I will be putting pictures up on the screen, so make sure you have a quick peek while I'm talking about when I introduce each chart so that you can see what it looks like when it's finished. So this one's Perfect Whisper. Sorry, I keep saying Perfect Whisper. That is not what it's called. It's Perfect Wisdom. It's because I have one called Fairy Whispers that I keep mixing them up. So I didn't get a huge amount done, but I did get some, and it's coming along nicely. So here it is. And I know that a lot of you send me messages to say how much you loved the look of this owl, because he just looks so amazing. And this is a design by Lisa Parker. I worked pretty much again on his chest, just below his beak. Try and bring that in a bit more for you. And I'm doing a combination of tent and crosses on this one. And it is going very slowly because it's so confetti around this, where you see all the little feathers. But it's coming along. And this design is, the designer of this particular chart is exactly the same as the one I have behind me, which is called Bewitched by Lisa Parker. This is also by Lisa Parker. So as you can see, I already finished and framed, pointing wrong direction. I also finished and framed one a couple of years ago. I really am enjoying working on this one. It's kind of slow going, so whenever I bring it out, I know that I don't really expect to get huge amounts done on it because of the fact that it is so confetti heavy. But hey, that's just the way it goes sometimes. Now, where am I going to leave these? Okay, so I didn't do a lot of kits this month, which is something I had thought about doing at the beginning of the month. I need to get some more work done on my kits, but because I don't get to see how much progress I make on them, I tend to just sort of overlook them. It's so easy to kind of overlook things. When you're working on Pattern Keeper and stuff like that, it becomes more favourable because you can keep track of how much you've done. And I think we kind of get used to that, and we kind of get used to the privilege of being able to do that. So that when it comes to bringing our kits out, we just think, I don't know, maybe some people are still really into working on the kits, but I think I'm kind of phasing out a little bit now that I've, been so spoiled with working digitally. But anyway, this kit that I'm going to show you now is one by designer called Thea Governor. I think you might have heard of it. And it is a couple of years ago now that I started this one, but it is very sort of difficult for me. I had a lot of trouble fathoming the paper chart that I was given. And the back stitch that's on the actual paper chart was really quite awkward because sometimes it would obscure the actual symbols underneath. Because some kits give you a copy of the actual chart, and then they give you an identical copy with all the backstitch lines on it. So you can actually then, decipher. You can use one copy for your actual stitching, and then you go to the next copy to look at where you put the back stitches. But this particular chart doesn't have that novelty. But anyway, that's kind of what put me off working on it, that I was getting a little bit lost with the paper chart. But I did manage to bring it out and peg it to my board, which I recently got, just to show you how much work I'd got done on this. So I pretty much filled in, which way am I going? This area here, which I think is looking lovely. So I've got all, like, bring it closer, like a little, is it a door or just another arched window? I think it is here. And I got some of this, and I got the bottom of the dome and this done, and I came down. So it doesn't look like I've done very much, but the nice thing about this chart is you don't actually have to do very much, and it really does show what you've done when you look at it like this. As you can see, I've sort of been working on the top pages. I think there's still more buildings to go along that side. They are really very generous at giving you loads of fabric. Look at the length of this fabric. It's still going. And the same on the other side. Maybe not quite as much on the other side. But yeah, they give you, compared to dimensions, they give you loads of fabric. This is an even weave, but I think you can get the option of choosing a linen as well if you prefer to work on linen. I much prefer to work on even weave, and you can also get the fabric in black if you want to work on the black version, the exact same pattern but on a black fabric. But I felt like it popped more on a lighter fabric because there's mostly darker colours in there. So this is London, and if you don't know me by now, I absolutely love buildings and landscapes, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, there have been a couple of hiccups with this one where I've thought, do you know what, I don't know if I want to continue with it because the back stitch is so, getting to me. But then I'm glad that I did persevere, because you don't just be hasty when it comes to UFOing things. I think I'm very bad at that. Sometimes I just say I don't want to do this anymore, and I just, that's it. It disappears. But now I've realised if I, maybe put some things away that you think you might go back to, and that's basically what I did with this one. And then I got it out by surprise. I wanted to work on it and do a little bit more. Although there are definitely some charts where I feel like, I know I'm never going to go back to this. I know that I'm hating every second of it, either the fabric or I'm hating, I don't know, just the design. Because I didn't know it was possible, but I think you can actually like a design and then you can unlike a design. I didn't think, that our tastes could change like that and be so unpredictable and unreliable. I think it's really unreliable if you think that you love something and then in 6 months' time you don't like it anymore. It doesn't work very well for things like cross stitch because they take so long to do, trust me. Okay, so let's have a look at the next one. I couldn't give you any stats on that particular chart because it's a paper kit and I don't know how much I've done. I can just go by looking at my previous progress. Okay, so the next one we have is actually called Fairy Whispers and not Wisdom. I'm getting the two mixed up. This is at 2.88%. I put a picture up, and I think partly the reason I chose this one is because of the colours. I just adore those colours. I just think they look great. And yeah, as you can see by my wall, I'm all into kind of blues. And I'd only done a very small corner square when you last saw it, and now I've actually done quite a bit more. So here is my progress on Fairy Whispers. How can I show it to you to get you the best light possible? So I started working, obviously I'd had like a little square here and I started doing a diagonal, and then I started moving this way, and now I'm going across this way. And I'm kind of prevaricating between going all the way to the end or going back to diagonal or just coming down and maybe doing a couple of rows along. I haven't decided. So unless the decision is made for me by my brain at some point, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't suppose it really matters either way. And the other thing is I've gone back to tent stitch, working on it, because I'll explain a bit more about that a bit later on. But I was working it 1 over 1 a full cross, and now I'm doing tent stitch with 2 strands, and it's working absolutely fine. That's always been my original method of stitching, so I don't have a problem with it. And these little things are actually very, very useful for holding on to the park threads, and I don't mind the park threads at all now. So that's as far as I've got, and I think I'm keen to get to like some of the horse around here, so it makes more sense to me to keep going that way, so at least I get a variation of the colours, because there's going to be a lot of background here and trees before I actually get down to the fairy, which I think is somewhere down the bottom here. So yeah, oh, the other thing I wanted to mention was I had given myself very little space, because this was a piece of spare fabric that I had, and it fit this design perfectly, except for it only gave me about 2 inches of a margin, which is what they say you're supposed to have. But it's very difficult to get this into the Q-snap and be able to stitch down the side, because there's just no space to wrap it around the Q-snap. So what I did was sewed good extra piece of fabric, as you can see here, on both ends. And that's going to give me a lot more leverage in terms of, so now you can see, because I've wrapped the blue around the Q-snap, I can push this further that way, and I can actually reach these stitches, but I can reach them from behind as well. So I'm not like trying to stitch behind this piece of plastic thing here. So don't be afraid to do that. So basically what I did was I just folded this, I think it was ½ an inch, was it? A couple of centimeters, ½ an inch, and then I went down with the sewing machine all the way down. And yeah, it's good enough that when you stretch it, it just pulls the whole piece in the center. I think the margin I gave myself on the right side was probably even worse, but hey. At the time, I wasn't actually thinking about the Q-snap deal when I started it on this piece. I just thought, oh, it fits, and that's fine. But I think in future, I'm going to have to think about, there are some occasions when I do want to work on Q-snaps, or I feel like changing it to the hoops. So I had it on a hoop, which is fine, because I could just about get this into the hoop. Then I wanted to work it on a Q-snap because of the fact that I was thinking of going along to the end. And then it's like, uh-oh, it's probably better on the longer Q-snap frame. So then came into the question of, I'm not going to fit that. So I spent a whole evening doing this to a few of my projects, which is well worth the time, trust me, if you want to get it into a frame. So that's Fairy Whispers. And did I tell you the percentage of that? It's still under 3%, but there is no rush or goals on any of these. I just sort of tend to bring them out when I feel like bringing them out. I think most of these that I'm going to show you today have had at least a couple of sessions, if not 3 sessions over the month. The next one I'm going to show you is called Moon Witch. This is the one that I chose to work on for the Stitch With Me videos that I put up recently. And I decided to do this one on the 20 count fabric because I wanted to have a few slightly bigger squares for doing cross country. And that's where we're at with Moon Witch. So I got the moon in and I got some of the hat, which isn't too bad. I just basically go anywhere and everywhere, but this is worked on 1 strand as a full cross, and I'm quite happy with that. I don't think I'm going to be picking this one up in November now. I think I've got other plans, which I'll tell you about. I never do plans, so the fact that I have a plan is actually really quite interesting. So we'll see if I can stick to it. That one's by Artisy, and it was a freebie a while ago. In fact, I think if you're a member of the Facebook group, you can find it in their files. I think they still have it in there. The next one that I've worked on this month is one that, it's a kit, and I started it ages ago. I think even before I really got into the Hades. I think it was started before I even finished that one. And this is called Gracious Era by Dimensions. The artist is Alan Maley, and I'm a big fan of the Edwardian Victorian era, such as like living in a Victorian house. So that really appeals to me. And I have also done the same with this particular chart as I did with the other one, and added some fabric around the sides. And here is how it's looking. I think it looks utterly breathtaking, just because I really can appreciate the depth of perspective. Something I really like in designs and photos and stuff is when they do really good use of depth and perspective, so you can actually see the length of this pavement and how things start to be less vivid further back and more prominent details at the front, which gives it that effect. So I've actually worked on, I'm really happy because I started this carriage and I finished this horse this month. Get a bit closer. I managed to finish that horse and the little man sitting on the top, the driver. So it makes such a difference. There's not actually too much backstitch in this one at all, I don't think. It is one of one full cross, and I think this is 16 count. And as you can see, I also added fabric at the sides because of the same issue, because dimensions tend to actually not give you very much. It's well known. Look at the space between the edge of the chart and the edge of the fabric. Very, very close. So I did the exact same thing, and I sewed up this piece, which actually came out looking so nice and so well sewed on that I thought, you know what, it might even look nice as part of the mount or something. I don't know. It really, because it's sort of Christmassy fabric that I've used. And this is a Christmassy, excuse me. Sorry, I had to just stop there for a second and take a drink before I choked to death on the camera. So, what was I saying? That I really like the, I got some really actually quite good quality fabric on the side of this. So I was thinking I might actually leave that. I haven't decided yet. So tell me what you think. Could I frame around that? But anyway, that is the full scale of what I've got done so far. And I'm also backstitching as I go along. So the backstitch that you see around the umbrella and the lantern and the guy and everything else has all been done a while back. And if possible, I prefer to do it like that so it doesn't feel so overwhelming when you come to do the whole backstitch finish. It looks okay. So this is Gracious Era. I've seen a few people doing this, but I don't know. I've seen a couple of finishes and I've seen a couple of starts, but I haven't seen people showing like progress sort of on this one very much. And it's actually really nice to work on that one in the Q-snap as well. So that has been worked on this month. Don't know if I'm going to bring that one out in November, possibly. I'm not going to make too much of a rigid plan because then it's all kind of like, this is too much like a schedule. It's like a work or school timetable. So a lot of the time I like things to be spontaneous, but sometimes have in mind a small goal, for instance, that kind of thing. So where are we next? Here's one that I haven't brought out in ages. I feel like I'm rushing through this and I don't want to be really rushing through. This one I started a couple of times because for some reason I just couldn't get into the groove with the fabric, or I couldn't get into it. And I did try it on 32 count and I managed to figure out how to do 32 count. And then I used the magnifiers, and then I didn't really enjoy using the magnifiers. It was all just like going a bit screwy. So I then said, you know, I like this chart so much, I don't want to abandon it. But I haven't picked it up. I restarted it on 25 count and I haven't really picked it up since. And it's called Castle. And here is a picture of it by, I think it's by the very infamous Edo Jose Rosa, who is a designer on Stitches So Beautiful. And I think a few people are working on this one. I have hardly done anything, but as I said, I have faffed around with my restarts, which is one of the reasons. But I did pick it out this month and I did do a few stitches along the top, and I went down to this end and did a few stitches to mark the middle. And now I'm kind of like, am I going to go down? Because around here, where I'm pointing, is where you're going to get most of the beginning of the castle. But over here, there's an awful lot of sky. And part of me says, go down and get to the castle because then it's going to be more fun, more exciting, it looks nice. The other part of me says, don't be a lazy cow, just go back to here and do some of the sky. And keep working on the sky, because at the end of the day, you're going to have to do all of it anyway. So I've got those two thoughts rattling around my brain. So I thought, don't decide, just leave it. Next time you pick it up, then decide where you feel like working on. Because for some crazy reason, if I start going down in the middle, I start feeling bad that I'm not working at this end. So why should you feel bad? I don't know. Can anyone explain that? I have no idea. But anyway, there are no shoulds in cross stitch, so there's no reason to feel bad. If I wanted to now go into the middle and start working there, I think there wouldn't be a problem with that. I don't know why we think the way we think. If some psychologist could explain. Anyway, so I can tell you the percentage of that one. I'm at 0.65%, which is not really any surprise, and it's not something I just fancy working on it. Maybe it's because it's the time of year for castles and Halloween and stuff. I thought, yeah, I could bring it out at least for one session, if nothing else. So I may well actually bring that one out again and try to get a bit more done on it, because I really think it's a lovely, very arty looking painting. Okay, the next one is also very surprising because it's one I haven't showed you for a good while. I have been working on this one very sporadically over a long period of time, and I think I got all into the excitement of this chart, and it's called Fruits of Plenty by Modern Folk Embroidery, and so many people were doing so many variations that I really felt like I was missing out by not actually doing my own variation, whatever that was. So I got into the idea of, or I got into the humor of looking through the fabric colors, looking through my flosses to see what they call a floss toss, to see what colors would go together for this particular chart. And I came up with my own colors, which are a sort of, it's always been funny this, because I see it as green and some people see it as grey and some people see it as blue. So I suppose it depends on your interpretation of colour and how the light actually hits the fabric. But anyway, I put a bit more on this, and this is where I am. I think it actually also complements the colour of the wall behind me, to be honest. And I've worked down here on this white, it's like a bit like a tree is coming out there. I don't want to hit my microphone. Have you seen the centre there? There's a tree just forming below the birds. So I kind of finished a bit of the birds and come down and done the white at the bottom. It's not a huge amount, but again, it's progress. And this is not one that I tend to pick out very often. But whenever I do, I think, oh, it's lovely. So yeah, this is worked with two colours of DMC. I think one of them is white. I think I'm using Anchor White, and it's possibly 3808, but don't quote me because I'm also using 3810 for something, and so I could be mixing up the two. but I think it's 3808. And this is by Zygarde. It's just a kind of Ada, I think, and I think it's 16 count. So yeah, I feel a bit disappointed that I haven't been working on this one very much, but it's all the more like when I do pick it out, it feels like something new. So I enjoy it more because then I know that when I've picked it up, it's when I really want to work on it, and not just because I feel indebted or because I feel like obliged, if you know what I mean. Don't like that feeling. So I do like to just pick things up when they call to me, and then it feels more genuine when I'm stitching on them rather than just, oh, I need to do this. I don't like the I need to. I like that I want to. So it's taken me a long time to try and find that balance between doing it and wanting to do it and all the rest. But having quite a number of whips isn't such a terrible thing at the end of the day, because then you have that, oh, I can work on that one or that one or that one, even though sometimes I get overwhelmed. But yeah, it's a minefield. I did not really work on, I've forgotten the name of it now, my biggest charm, Riverwalk Charm, picture here. Everybody knows this has sort of been my focus piece for a long time. Didn't really pick it up, needed a bit of a break. I do get burnt out on it. Sometimes I go rushing into working on it thinking I'm going to get loads done. I never get loads done. So then I put it away and I feel burnt out. Then I start wanting to work on other things. So I don't know. As long as I'm doing something on it every so often, I'm happy with that. As long as it hasn't gone into a cupboard for like 2 years and I haven't looked at it, I'm happy I've done something. I wasn't going to show it today because I thought I've not done much. Maybe 100 stitches, maybe. It's something. But some people tell me it's their favourite of mine, so why not show it since it's in my pile. There we are. I have no idea. I'd better stand up. That's better. It doesn't even fit. There. Right, I'll go for this side. So I'm working at this end. Well, sort of here. And I've done this page. Finish this page, I'm going to move to the next page, I think. So I'm taking it in increments. There we are. So I'll just fold it now. So the colours are just spectacular for this one. I just so love it. I really do. Part of me just wants to get it done, and part of me says it's a bit daunting still. There's the other side. So yeah, it's quite an effort, and to be honest, it's less than 500,000 stitches. So if you're thinking of doing, it's actually less than 400,000. It's close to, but it's not 400,000 stitches. So if you're looking at charts on the Hayes site or any full coverage, and you want an actual real life perspective of how big these things are, if this looks daunting to you, this size, you know not to get anything over 350,000 stitches or anywhere near, because that is what you're going to be stuck with for years. So you're better off getting something small. And this is nowhere near as big as the bedspreads people do, which I'm always very impressed, but I can't. I don't think I could maintain. I don't think I could maintain my interest in something for so many years. And if I was to do something like an SSMC bedspread size, I think it would have to be the only thing I do, because otherwise I would feel like it would be like a chain around my neck. So I'm really impressed with people that do it, like I say, and manage it, and they seem to do great with it. But for me, and I'm actually downsizing in my head when it comes to choosing charts, because I feel like if I choose ones that are reasonably sized, it means I can do more of them in my lifetime. So that's what I'm thinking. I still get tempted by big things. I still am tempted by big things, but I'm trying to be sensible. I'm not 20 anymore. So yeah, if I was, I'd probably start all the things. So that is everything that I have to show you, my friends. That's quite a lot of work. That's all what I've worked on this month. So let's see, next month, I think the definites that I want to keep working on are, for how I feel right now, I want to pick out Castle again. Probably want to do some more on the Fairy Whispers, but I'm not sure because I feel like I want to pick out maybe 2 or 3 pieces next month and try to get more progress on them. So actually, putting Riverwalk Charm into the slot is a real consideration. I have to think about that because I do actually want to get more progress on it. So there's no reason why I shouldn't do that. Let's have a look at my list. I should really see, I'm saying all these shoulds, and that's not how I like to work. I like to work on what I feel like doing. Gracious Era, I wanted to keep working on that a little bit more, at least up till Christmas. So hopefully I still maintain the enthusiasm for that one. And Vatican Sunset, which I don't have with me right now, is another one that I want to work on as well. And then here's the thing that I wanted to talk about. 2 things. First of all, I think I'm going to go back to tent stitch on most of these pieces, not the kits, because they don't do tent stitch anyway. Mostly they do. Well, unless the pattern requires it. You have to do what the pattern says with regards to the kits usually. So, but with the heids that I've been doing crosses, I'm now going to convert to the stitches, the tent stitches, I think, merely because I just keep starting new ones again. And I'm never going to get anywhere if I keep doing the crosses. If I keep doing the crosses on everything. So I've had a good break with the tent stitch. Never really had a problem with the tent stitch. The problem I had was with all the parking threads. But now that I've been started using those bobbies things, I found it much more manageable and a lot less cat hair on my threads. So it's a win-win. So now that I'm able to manage multiple threads, I'm like, why don't you just go back to 10 stitches? Because you like 10 stitch, you don't have a problem with it. And it is going to be a little bit quicker than crosses, and no, you just cannot tell when you hold it up. For instance, my Riverwalk Charm, when I held that up, that is a mixture of crosses and half stitches, and even I can't tell you. If I was to look at it closer, I cannot tell you where one begins and one ends. I just can't see it. So when you have it up on a wall, no one's ever going to know. And even if they did, it still looks amazing. So I would say, unless you're particularly fussy about something being, perfect, or as close to perfect as you can get. If you're a particularly fussy person, I would recommend just sticking with the crosses or the half stitch, because you will just feel perhaps not too happy about changing. But I don't think it's a big deal. And I've heard other people saying they don't think it's a big deal, and they've been swapping around as well. So the only difference you're going to get is that the cross stitches with one strand are going to be smoother than the 10 stitches with 2 strands, which are going to be thicker. So you're going to have a mixture of ruggish and then smooth. But even that, once you've framed it, I don't think you can notice. So that's just my opinion, which I'm giving you. Don't have to accept that. That's just the way I'm thinking. Okay, and what was the other thing I was going to mention? One was the stitches. Now I've completely forgotten the other thing that I was going to say. What was it? Give me 2 seconds. I'll have to go and rack my brain. I just remembered as soon as I turned off the camera. I just didn't want to sit here on the camera like, what was I saying? For 10 minutes. Which is just going to be a couple of seconds for you. Okay, so what I wanted to say was, I vehemently did not want to do the hay sale for 2026. And I was saying to my husband, no way, because I didn't do last year. I did the year before, and I didn't finish the hay sale piece that I did the year before. I didn't do last year because I thought, I'm not going to do it. But I did feel a lot like I was missing out when I didn't do the hate sale last year, even though I didn't really gravitate hugely towards any of the pieces. I felt like I was missing out because I really enjoyed doing the Stitch with Me's on it, and I enjoyed chatting to people about it and all that sort of thing. So when this one was coming along, I was thinking, no. And then I was looking at it, and she's posting, you know, little like snippets of the pictures. And every time I looked at it, I was thinking, but you know what? It's not such a bad thing, is it, if you do it? Like, who's it going to harm? And maybe, you know, like stuff has happened with some of my whips. Some of them I've UFO'd. One of them I've completely lost, has gone missing in action, which I don't know if you remember it. It's called Happy Village, and I completely lost it. I don't know where it is. It might turn up one day. I don't know. I'm feeling it went away in a bag, and I didn't realize that it was in a bag that went away. But that upset me for a while. But that one's not working on that one. And I don't know. I just feel like, shall I participate? Would it be such a terrible thing if I did? And does it really matter if I don't get the, you know, all the installments finished by the end of the year? At least I will have participated with other people. And it's so fun to stitch and see everybody's posts and how well they're doing. And I did lose that feeling last year. I felt very disconnected, like everything I was doing was on my own. And part of the thing I like about this community is the connection with it. Otherwise, I'm just a lonely stitcher in my little, you know, my little habitat. I just sit there stitching on my own. I don't have other stitchers to talk to about it except you guys. So that is the connection that I have. And I even think to myself, if I didn't do flosstube and if I wasn't sharing my things with you, would I actually stitch? Well, I think I probably would, but I probably wouldn't stitch as much. And I wouldn't be as interested in stitching, because part of the fun for me is the sharing. And without that, it's not as much fun. So with that said, I haven't decided, but I have been looking at them and I've been sharing the discussions about it on my Discord with other people. So, and I've seen the pictures of them, and there's a couple that I actually like. So a decision will be made. I don't know when she's going to post the actual message where you have to go and, you know, sign up and that kind of thing. But I'm thinking I might participate. So let me know what you think about that. And because I really don't think if I like the participation aspect, then I have to accept that I may not get the whole thing finished by the end of the year. But then upon accepting that, we're fine. It's all good. Just do it for the participation. And if you happen to get it finished by the end of next year and you really enjoy working on it or whatever, I know it's going to mean a bit less time for some of these, but yeah, that's the give and take. You can't have everything. So it's going to have to be, weigh it all up. And even if I don't work on it as much, it's not like somebody's put a gun to my head and said, hey, you have to do this. I don't have to really do anything. I don't have to do. So yeah, there's all these thoughts going around my head at the moment, but I'm really feeling like I'm getting like a pull, you know, that pull of kind of stirring up, like I want to do. I'll tell you which ones I like. I like the look of the ship because it's really moody, and I'm a very moody person. I like the look of the one that was on the top at the far right, which is like a castle picture. It's like a crop of a castle, because I love castles. I live in Edinburgh, and you can't live in Edinburgh without loving a castle, because there's one just down the road. In fact, there's a couple around here. Like it's a 15-minute walk for me to get to a palace. So you got to love castles over here. The other one I like is the Thomas Kincaid piece, little snippet that I saw, because I don't know, I just love buildings, particularly old ones. So yeah, actually, if I do decide to do it, it's going to be a hard decision to make. So I'd like to hear all your thoughts about from those of you that are actually thinking yourselves about doing it and maybe finding it difficult to decide. Just let me know what you think. Okay, I think that was everything. I hope that was everything. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments. I'll be happy to answer for you. But before I say goodbye today, I just want to quickly show you a couple of other things I have been up to. One of them is I'm making a blanket, if I can find it. And I know some of you crochet and really do like knitting and crochet. At the moment, I'm crocheting this because I just thought the colours were so beautiful in this room. Let me see if I can unwrangle this, because it's kind of got stuck with my crochet hooks, got stuck on this. Okay, so I've got this beautiful colour, and I have a sort of dark green, darkish green. I've got a darker end, like that end colour as my curtains here. So this is pulling in the curtains, this, and my coffee table, which is another variation of that. And let's have a look. This is as far, so this is called a C2C, corner to corner blanket. And this is as far as, let me turn it this way. So all these gradients, all these beautiful gradients, it just kind of reminds me of like being wrapped in a big wave in the ocean. I'll stand up so you can see. Hopefully this is going to be, no, not really going to be that much easier. So it's kind of a V shape at the moment. So it could be wearable as a shawl. So I'm kind of working down this end to the end. But I just thought some of you actually might appreciate these beautiful blues. I think that'll look gorgeous as a throw over there on my couch, or even just wrapped around me when I go to bed. But it takes a while to get from one end to the other, so it's a little bit tedious. It's a bit like doing your, because I'm doing diagonal stitches on this, is a bit like doing this diagonal stitching on the, for coverage. It takes ages to get from one end to the other. So that's one thing I'm working on. The other thing is I've been reading some books, and I've read one book called Hidden Pictures. I can't remember the name of the author, but I'll put a picture of it. It's actually an Audible book I've been listening to, and it's sort of like a supernatural, but a bit like a murder mystery too. So it's really fitting for this time of year, and it's about a woman who gets employed as a child sitter for this couple's little boy, and she has like sort of a dubious past. So she's really nervous about making a good impression. And the little boy's drawing all these pictures, which are like way beyond his capability of a child his age, 10 or whatever, how old he is, maybe a bit younger. So he's doing all these weird drawings, and the girl that's looking after him is getting freaked out because they're like horror pictures basically. And the parents are like, no, you know, it's just an imaginary, he has an imaginary friend and he keeps drawing her and talking to her, but she's not real. So the girl's really suspicious. The child sitter's really suspicious. So I won't tell you the whole story, but it just, you know, follow the story with the more or less in the child sitter's perspective. And it's getting a little bit more like, what's actually going on? So I haven't quite got to the last chapter, but I'm very close. And there's a little bit like of a twist at the end. So it's not a bad read. I wouldn't say it'd be one of my favourites, but it's not terrible. It's interesting. And if you have the Kindle version, if you get the Kindle version, it actually shows you the photographs, shows you pictures on the Kindle of what this child is drawing. So you can look at the pictures. Although I've been listening to it on Audible. Obviously, I don't see the pictures on Audible. But I do have the Kindle version as well, so I'm like listening to it and flicking through the Kindle book to see the pictures that the child is drawing, and some of them are quite horrific, like girl being strangled and dragged through the woods and buried in the dirt, and it's like, okay, I'm glad that nobody's drawing. I'm glad my child isn't drawing pictures like that for me. So the next book that I picked up to read, I went and I got this book, which just dropped my microphone. So I picked up this one as another read, because every time I see something like that, like a you know, an isolated castle or mansion or something in the middle of the sea or in the middle of a field or something, you always think, oh, it's got to be a good like Agatha Christie type story. And I started reading it. It's about a detective who, it's basically just a murder mystery, detective murder mystery. But then I realised that this is book 2 of a few of them, although it can be read as a standalone. But then when I looked at reviews, people were saying, well, you can read it as a standalone book, but you really want to read the first one to get an idea of the characters, the detectives and the police and the forensic people. You know, you get to see how they interact with each other, which you don't get when you read it on a standalone, because it's already been explained in the book one, or it's shown in book one. So I went and downloaded on Kindle book one, which is what I'm currently reading. So it doesn't say anywhere here about it being a book one or two or three. So I'm being a numpty that I am, I just pick them off the shelf and buy them. So I'm trying to race through the book one, which is, yes, a detective murder mystery, and get to this one that I actually purchased. Maybe that doesn't even get all finished this year, but we'll see. So as you can see, I've got quite a lot of things that I could be doing. So on any given day, I really should pick something out of a hat and make a decision as to whether I'm going to read or crochet or do my stitching. And I think that's everything. I think that's everything that I have. I don't have anything else to tell you today. So with that, I have to say thank you for sticking around and listening to me and watching my video. It's been a pleasure to spend the time with you again. And don't forget to drop in the comments your thoughts on the different things that I've been talking about, the 2026 Haid Sal. You know, how are you going to go forward in November with your stitching? What are you planning to do? Or maybe you, like me, not really keen on plans. So yeah, just let me know. And I hope that you have a wonderful Halloween, even if you don't celebrate it. I hope you enjoy your day. And I'll be back again soon to catch up with you again. So take care, my friends, and bye for now.